Yesterday, 31st July 2013, the Court of Appeal dealt with three linked cases. Tony Nicklinson, Paul Lamb, and a third man known only as Martin, raising issues that are described as a so-called right to die. Now, I don't think that's a particularly helpful term. As an adult with capacity to make that decision for myself, I can refuse life-saving medical treatment, and I could commit suicide without it being a crime since 1961. But these three men could not do that for themselves. They needed some help to end their lives. And consent is no defence to murder, however caring the setting or compassionate the motives, and assisted suicide is clearly still a crime. The Court of Appeal was never going to change that law. That's a matter for Parliament. What the Court of Appeal did say yesterday is that the Director of Public Prosecution's guidance on when he will exercise his discretion to prosecute for assisting suicide may not be clear enough in how it applies to health and social care professionals as opposed to members of the patient's friends or family. We should see some revised guidance unless the DPP chooses to wait for the likely appeal to the Supreme Court of this case. Now, even if the courts won't deal with changing the substantive law on assisted suicide, there will still be lots of focus on end-of-life decisions over the next few months and years. Supreme Court is due shortly to hand down its decision on medical futility, an end-of-life withdrawal of treatment in Aintree versus James, and the withdrawal of the Liverpool care pathway around the country will also raise lots of issues around end-of-life care planning. These are really difficult decisions for clinicians, patients and their families to have to deal with, and it's always good to get advice at an early stage, try and do the right thing, but keep the cases out of court for everybody's sake.
I don't talk about it often, but I'm a fan of the men's rights movement. I believe that we should end male circumcision, we should start to address some of the inequalities between men and women, and we should start to take men's rights into consideration, and this can mean a lot of things on different topics. I don't follow it very closely, but I'm a supporter of it, and I hope that the men's rights movement succeeds. I'd like to see them make some changes. I don't want to see them remove abortion rights, but I don't believe they intend to necessarily. And I feel like feminism and masculism can live side by side peaceably and make progress and communicate with one another, and instead of masculism being purely an anti-feminist movement, I feel like they can have a deep impact on the world that's positive and that's built out of love and good intentions instead of just animosity. I feel like there's too much animosity towards feminists in the masculist movement because it's so easy to have an enemy and it's so easy to organize people that way, but I hope that that will be a phase that they grow out of. But in the men's rights movement and in feminism, there is very little discussion of euthanasia. Euthanasia is a fundamental right. This is why it is a nigger right. It is not just a men's rights or a woman's rights issue. It's everybody that euthanasia impacts, much like the ability to smoke pot, the ability to conduct sex work, or the ability to sell your organs or to purchase the organs of another person. Nigger rights are rights that we do not have, that niggeritarianism seeks to make available to people. And the right to die is a fundamental right. Now, if you don't like that terminology, you can go with human right, that's fine. But the point remains, which is that people that want to die and have a death wish are real. And those people sometimes voice that wish and they get shut down. They get told no, they get told to shut up, they get told that this is as good as we can do. And we can do better. We can provide them a safe and humane death that's guaranteed to work. The biggest fear that people that have a death wish have is that their suicide will be feeble and that they will have a failed suicide attempt that then leaves them in a hospital or in a mental institution, and then they will be powerless to end their life, which they hate. Some people hate life. It's weird, but it's true. And I'm not one of those people, but I understand, and I think there's nothing more understandable than a wish to end it all, a wish to get out of this. And I think that it's sad that we can't provide that in the current system, but that's what egalitarianism is for. You know, this is a laundry list of complaints, a laundry list of things to fix. So the right to die, do you think that we have it? Do you think we deserve it? Do you think that it should be all on the individual? Or are there ways that society can make it easier to die and make it more safe and more humane? Do you see my point in this? The right to die, is it a nigger right? Thanks for watching. Take care.
I want to die slowly. I want to feel my life slipping through my fingers. I want to sit on my own private hillside as I watch the last bit of light seep out of the horizon. Then I'll go where people go after they die. The thought of death has always fascinated me. When the time comes, I want to make sure and get the most out of it. This mystery that everyone spends their life wondering about. I don't see why I should be afraid. I was non-existent 20 years ago, and that wasn't all that bad. But here we keep on wondering. The purpose of this speech isn't to give you any answers, but maybe to provide some overdue questions regarding death, and to examine the relationship we the living have with death. One night my mom was driving me home from work. I can't remember why, but I was really sad. She was behind the wheel, and I was sitting next to her just minding my own business, when an 18-wheeler diesel truck crashed into us head-on. I know, it's not the best way to die. I think freezing would be a good way to go. Jumping off a huge cliff would also do the trick. I'd casually release myself from the edge and spend the next 12 seconds or so thinking about what I just did. That does seem a bit selfish, though, to mutilate such a valuable resource. I could donate my body to science. I guess that would be the most empathetic thing to do. But if it were up to me, I would have them throw my corpse in a forest, to be eaten by the life surrounding. And this is when it starts happening all over again. In the words of the band, Andrew Jackson Jihad, I'd like to be a big ball of meat that bees could buzz around and eat when I die, so I might be given some sense of purpose. Isn't energy transfer fun? One of my pet rats is named Ginger. Ginger is dead at the moment. I always used to bury all of her pets when they died. Then I began to wonder why us humans bury the things we love. According to Oliver Morgan, a student at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, burial isn't necessarily a public health requirement, contrary to popular belief. But what about respect for the dead? If left lying on the ground, a corpse would quickly find itself missing several body parts. Various scavengers and decomposers would feast upon the defunct machinery, and nothing would go to waste. Is this disrespectful? And how much do the non-living value our respect? Don't get me wrong, I think it's important to show respect for the memory of a loved one, but it can be difficult to separate respect for the dead from the deep fear of death itself that seems to be innate in us humans. Of course, to say that everybody thinks like this is an exaggeration. For example, in Tibet, they honor their dead with sky burials. Eyewitnesses describe this as a ceremony where the dead are fed to vultures, often after being torn apart and ground up. This makes perfect sense to me, but instead we insist on forcing whatever remains of the people we love into a box, and we hide that box in the ground as if to safely contain death and all his inconveniences. No, they'll eventually find their way out of their coffins and into the soil, where they'll be fertilizing dandelions. But why the hesitance? And so, when Ginger died, I walked her out to the edge of the woods, and I threw her inside. Then I went back home, leaving her to be consumed by a multitude of life. What better way to go? Anyway, back to the moments of my death. An 18-wheeler hit my mom's Buick head-on, and I observed myself being thrown forward towards the grill of the truck. The shriek of metal colliding with metal started to give me a headache, but it was over before I knew it. It was over even before it began, and I found myself back in the car with my mom, driving home. I smiled, not because I was relieved especially, but because I was reminded that this is all going to end someday. It's like watching the clock when you're at school or at work. You might not be having as much fun as you'd like to, but you can take solace in the fact that it'll all be over with in just 30 minutes. If we could just make it past a few more weeks, a few more months, through the year, if we can just make it past this lifetime. Quoth Andrew Jackson Jihad, "Once an hour a day, I get very sad. But once that hour is over, I start to feel okay, 'cause I'm reminded I'll rot away. I don't have much time to hang out here and cry. Though that may feel nice, I can't do that every day." Now, I'm not trying to say that death never fazed me. I've been terrified of it my whole life. Not my own, but that of those around me. I don't at all feel sorry for the dead. They have it easy. I feel sorry for the living. It's them that are hurting. This brings to mind a Dutch post-impressionist painter who spent most of his life being mocked, rejected, and otherwise ignored. As far as I can tell, suicide was the best thing that could have happened to him. It's said that an artist will ask for bread, but will receive only stone. After starving him to death, a stone monument will be erected in his memory. And it's true. Today, Vincent van Gogh is widely regarded as one of history's greatest painters. He died slowly, 2 days after shooting himself. One of the last things he said was, "Dying is hard, but living is harder still." I'm not trying to depress anybody here. Neither am I suggesting that suicide should be any type of solution. But maybe we could use this as an example to help prevent similar things from happening in the future. What is it that adds value to life? What does one lack that makes death seem more appealing? William James, a pioneering American psychologist, said that the deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. Alfred Lunt, a well-known actor, said, "There is nothing I need so much as nourishment for my self-esteem." And I couldn't agree more. Everybody I've met hungers for acceptance and affection as much as they do for food or water. We nourish the bodies of the people we love, but we often neglect to give them the appreciation that their self-esteem thirsts for. When I had this epiphany, I went through a time when I lathered everyone around me with affection. Just as a man would eat hay if he were hungry enough, I found several people eagerly swallowing any compliment I fed them. It was then that I fully realized that I was surrounded by the starving. My little sister went through a similar phase, wherein she seemed incapable of going very long at all without reminding me that she hated me and she wanted me to die. I never thought she meant it, but it frustrated me, as I knew she had no idea what she was saying. To convey this, I used a ladder to climb to the roof of my house. I waited for my sister to appear in the lawn, and then I threw the ladder from the edge of the roof to the ground, telling her that unless she made some physical effort to restore the ladder, I would jump off the roof and welcome whatever gravity had in store for me. I was certain that she would help me out, proving that she didn't actually hate me or want me to die, that she was in fact happy we were both very much alive. My hypothesis was inaccurate. She didn't seem to take much of an interest and preferred going inside rather than saving me from my threat, and I found myself stuck on the roof, trapped in a snare of my own making. While I was up there, I thought about the events that had positioned me in the precarious situation I now found myself in. It's a place I had been many times before. It's not that I pursue such disorderly conditions. Rather, I've observed that until such adversity is reached, one tends to avoid trying to remedy the situation. It's not that I mean to cause trouble. It's just that it's been my experience that peace can't exist without war. It's war that brings us together and makes us believe in our country again. It's death that puts a price on life and makes it worth fighting for. We go into the battlefield, side by side. We run through fire and cartilage, and all that matters is keeping our family together. And though there might be so much that we're still unsure of, we can take solace in one thing. One way or another, it'll all be over with soon enough. The guns will stop firing. The sky will stop bleeding. And you'll find yourself on your own private hillside, watching as a faint light grows brighter and new warmth spills over the horizon.
We do this work because death is the most powerful thing in our lives.
We have great sex education in our country, but we don't have death education. So, I so appreciate Ram Dass is the pioneer in this work of really addressing not just the spiritual issues of dying as though it's a separate category, but to realize all the preparations, including durable power of attorney and so on. It's all about spirituality.
How basically ignorant most of us are.
About death, I have been in denial.
The fears and anxieties and various emotions.
Our lack of reconciliation with the truth of our mortality, I feel, has given rise to global suffering, consumerism, stupidity, and the rest.
I was particularly interested in was how to be with a dying person.
I had a wonderful friend who was helping her father die, and her father was just totally freaked out. And he was flailing and terrified, and she was beginning to freak out herself because she couldn't do anything for him. I mean, he was just completely frozen with fear, but flailing. And she leaned over, and she remembered the story Ram Dass, and she leaned over to her father, and she said, "Dad, death is safe." And he just grabbed it. It was like the bark, the boat that would take him to the other shore, and he said those words until he died.
That's great.
Death is safe. Death is safe. Death is safe.
You know, we're watching our parents die, many of us. Dementia, a debilitation, incontinence, loss of control. And what are the two biggest things you hear from dying people? I don't want to lose control. I don't want to be a burden. And actually, that's one of the projects A Doorway into Light is working on in terms of training communities for people who are dying alone or dying with somebody who's completely burned out.
When I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, threw her into the role of caretaker and me into a kind of dependence.
I'm a hospice nurse.
All you have to do is just be present for other people. You don't have to know, or you don't have to teach, or you don't have to answer questions. You don't have to, just be present.
I don't work with dying people because I'm Mother Teresa in drag. I don't do it because I'm even a nice guy. I do it because I want to awaken. And being around dying people is the most alive environment in which I can find to see the places in my own practice where I think I'm somebody solid. And it calls out the best in me.
It's so unfortunate. People die and they'll be quiet, and the caretakers will come talk, you know. or put up little pictures of their family, or trying to pull them back. And you've got to honor that moment. And it can't be push or pull. That's the person's got to, that karma will do that.
Yeah. Learning more about myself and my relationship with my mortality.
On your relationships with your caregivers and what this kind of existence, the effect it has on them, and what your social exchanges are. Everything is heightened.
You have that knowledge as somebody who works in the field of death and dying, but so often you don't own it. It's not yours. It's something that is out there. And then, a little catastrophe like a stroke or something else awakens you to the truth that this could happen right tonight. Anybody driving out of here, gone.
Look at my fears around dying, and I'm so grateful to Ramdas and Bodhi and Leila, and Joan is just absolutely amazing.
If any man teach otherwise, and consent not to wholesome words, even the words of our Lord Jesus Christ, and to the doctrine which is according to godliness, he is proud, knowing nothing, but doting about questions and strifes of words, whereof cometh envy, strife, railings, evil surmisings, perverse disputings of men of corrupt minds and destitute of the truth, supposing that gain is godliness. From such withdraw thyself. But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. And having food and raiment, let us be therewith content. But they that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith, and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. But thou, O man of God, flee these things, and follow after righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, meekness. Fight the good fight of faith. Lay hold on eternal life, whereunto thou art also called, and hast professed a good profession before many witnesses.
Back 100? Yeah, right there.
They're just for raising the house. We're not doing nothing.
I asked him
How you
that the
doing
other
this
day.
morning?
Couldn't tell me.
We're just raising the house. There's nothing towards you.
I
Just
have no problem with that.
All right, guy. Just trying to be nice.
Well, that's the way to handle it. That's
That's
exactly
it.
talk, and that's how you handle it.
That's
nice.
it. That's it.
But when you're going around telling people I do bad work and all this kind of shit, don't look. I need to give me a damn statement on
Now,
it.
why are you bringing that up now?
Because I am. Because you try to be nice, you bullshit these people, and it's not true.
We don't talk to nobody. That we
Bullshit,
never
you went and
walk
win
down
Dixie.
there. What,
Come
Nate?
on, man.
What, Nate?
If you would stop playing games and be a man, then we wouldn't have these troubles.
Are we 100?
I don't know why you're worried about over here. I mean, this is his business. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why you're out here for.
Well, you ain't getting on my property, dig no holes in it.
That man knows what he's doing.
That's correct. You know what he's doing.
So you don't need to be out here.
Yeah, I can tell you all I want. You're right here on my property. I can tell him to get off my property if I wanted to.
No, you can't.
Oh, I can? Yeah. Watch out. I think the police out here.
Let's not get in no argument.
That's correct. I tell you, you can. I know the law. I had the attorney called yesterday.
I figured you did anyway. So.
Okay, so you want me to? Yeah.
We telling everybody in the block we trying to be friends.
You see, yeah, but you lying. You talk out
Listen
both
to this.
sides of your
Look,
mouth.
Look, listen to him.
Look, I got the man right there. You want me to get him over here?
Sure.
You can tell him what he said in Win Dixie. Oh, don't use
Call
him.
him.
He does bad work. You know, why you do that? You constantly dog me out. You want to fuck me? What is it? Y'all got mental fucking problems.
Oh, 200.
Unless you're not on drugs.
Yeah, oh, that's there you go. Another thing, right? Now I'm on drugs. Y'all got so much bullshit. I got a damn 80-page court document to show 13 freaking lies you tried to tell in court. Didn't work, did it?
Alright.
Look at me, old monk-ass motherfucker.
Listen to you playing games.
No, y'all full of shit with y'all bullshit. You got all these people Buffalo with your shit on this side. These you don't. Nah, there's the man
Well,
right there. Ask him if you went Win Dixie and told him something.
They see how you act?
Yo, yeah, they see how I act. Y'all fucking pathological liars.
Yeah, right.
I got it proven in court.
Yeah, right. Why did they
Yeah,
throw?
right.
Why you wouldn't go to court? Why you wouldn't go to court?
Meanwhile, I wouldn't go to court.
Those other 2 times, you stayed away from
Because I
court.
was better than you. That's why.
No,
I know how to
you
handle
were scared
people
how
like
the
you.
outcome would come with.
Bullshit. You want to see my 80-page court document? Freaking lying-ass
All right.
bastard 13 times. That's all y'all fucking good for.
Give me line here, please. Alright. Come to you. Alright, go away from 500. Alright, that's good. Line on. Yeah, it is.
Oh, it is so sad. Y'all got so much bullshit with y'all. When I told y'all need a life before, you still need one.
No, you do. You need a life.
Yeah.
You worked out your house.
Man, fuck you. Fuck you with your jumpers blown up all over the place. Don't give me that bullshit. You called on your fucking self, and he said it in court, you asshole. He said it. I got it on proof on paper. Yes, he called on himself. You want to see it on paper? Because I got it.
I didn't call him myself.
Yes, it did. You answered the judge. You told him, yes, I did. I'm
on one
going to
second,
see
okay?
if
I'm
I
gonna go
can
to the
continue
back.
doing it out of my house. And they told you, absolutely not. That's on paper.
But it's going to be a...
You think I hide that transcription?
Yeah, and you're gonna threaten me in my backyard
Ain't
and
nobody
threaten me.
threatening you. You folks don't come with that bullshit. It's got audio.
You didn't stand there screaming, saying, "I'm going to call on you and your, I'm going to call code enforcement on you doing your
Never
space
did,
wash."
because it don't bother me.
Oh,
I even said, leave
Adam.
the fence down. You can clean them in the back.
Go get the recorder.
Go get it. Go get it. You're full of shit, dude. That's all y'all do is fucking lie. Y'all constantly think of shit. I told you leave the fence down, you clean them in the back. But you wanted it up.
Yeah, 'cause I got dogs and you leave your other fence open.
Well, I don't give a shit. It all started 'cause your dog kept shitting in my fucking yard.
What about their dog too coming over here shitting in your
Your
yard?
dog just, anytime you want to look for a turd, look at my yard for a turd.
We got 10 pictures of dogs.
Oh, you full of, man, fuck you and your lying shit. You see what you do? You can't, go get me 10. Go get me 5. Go get them.
Go get the
You don't
picture.
have fucking none. Yeah. Big black dog shitting in my yard. Ain't a big fucking black dog around here you trying to tell in court. You're an asshole, dude. That fucking AIDS or whatever you got you mentally fucked up.
That's going to the lawyer.
But top fuck, put everything to the lawyer. 'Cause I got enough people to bring with me, believe me. Y'all been miserable motherfuckers for fucking 3 years.
Yeah, 'cause we're living next door to your ass.
Yeah, but guess what? Mine's paid for. I ain't going nowhere. You can raise that motherfucker 30 feet.
Gets 25 on you?
That's all right, I don't need it. Wait, put me on line, Lee. Oh, hold on, just read the tape. Can you see that? 1800s. Okay.
Put the trashiest people in here.
All right, so I'm gonna go in back and we'll try to set one back there, all right? All right. And then just kind of keep me on line so I can measure the fences and see where they're at. Once we set the back where you can just pick up and bring my clipboard back, all right? Not just put the gun on.
Did you call?
We're just trying to mind our own business, so we're trying to make, trying to make friends.
If that was true,
What?
you wouldn't be coming around telling people the shit like you tell them.
We don't.
When we end up in court again, because we will, believe me, I'll have these people laugh. Okay?
Good, let 'em.
You're so full of shit, dude. Yeah, fuck you, okay? That's the way I feel about it.
Yeah,
When y'all fucking die off of AIDS or whatever y'all gonna die of,
You want to,
the better.
You can't say that.
What you mean I can't say that? What I can't say?
AIDS.
Well, I can't say that.
Good, we don't have it.
Oh, we don't have it?
No.
Okay.
At least we're not miserable old fuck that's miserable in his life.
I ain't fucking miserable.
And jealous.
Wonderful. Y'all make me miserable.
That ain't what Jody told us.
Okay, fuck Jody.
Jody told
Yeah,
us.
she
And
was
you
saying
ran
that.
Jody off.
Yeah. If you know the shit she says behind y'all back, you wouldn't believe it. She tries to stir the pot. That's all she tries to do. Yeah, she better be. She better be, because I know a lot of information on Jody that I could go tell her husband. That's the only reason she's scared of me. so full of shit with, oh, we just try to be friends. We just want peace. And you're out there talking shit to everybody you meet, because I talk to them. Well, tough shit. I ain't going nowhere because it's paid for. So like I say, raise that bitch 60 feet if you want. I don't care. Fuck, not at all, buddy. Y'all can stay your ass right here, but we gonna have problems until the fucking day we both die.
No, we're moving.
Yeah, bullshit. Yeah, you done told the police that 3 times. I got that on a damn police report.
No, we are now because it's not going to stop.
Yeah. Full of shit.
Here's line. You're lying pretty good. You're lying good. Okay, I'm gonna go back.
The Belgian Senate voted in favor of extending euthanasia rights to extremely sick children. The law is likely to get the vote of the full parliament, and if so, Belgium could become the first country in the world to remove the age limit for euthanasia.
It's very important that we have a legal frame for the doctors who are confronted with this demand today, and for the minors, for the capable minors who are suffering today, and who I think should have the freedom to choose how they cope with this suffering.
Opponents of the law from the Flemish Christian Democrats say children are too young to understand death and may not be capable of making such a decision. Bruno Vierinks lost his 15-year-old daughter Audrey to leukemia. He does not agree with the move.
Les enfants réagissent.
Children react to what they see going on in their families. They react to their parents' behavior. They react to their siblings' behavior. Those who are near them, they react to the fact that maybe, suddenly, they feel they are a burden to the rest of their family. So, as a consequence, they feel ready to leave the family. All this has nothing to do with maturity.
Sonia de Velter is a nurse who helped care for Audrey, and she has seen 200 cases of terminally ill children.
In my experience as a nurse, I never had a child asking to end his life. Children indeed say, "Oh well, it's really hard," or "I'm fed up." But that doesn't mean they're tired of living. It means they're tired of their situation. That's how they often express it, because it's too hard to speak about.
Belgium is already one of the world's most liberal countries when it comes to euthanasia. Here, the right is granted to adults who are not terminally ill.
If somebody becomes addicted, their emotional development is arrested by the chemicals that they're using and may even suffer some deterioration. So the recovery process is about developing emotionally and a maturity level, because very often people regress when they're drinking and using, and they start to mature once they get into recovery. And that maturing process, as you probably remember from your adolescence, can be quite painful. It's quite challenging, it's very exciting. It's very easy to lose the boundaries and get sucked into other people's emotional distress. But obviously, to be effective, we have to have the empathy, but also to be able to stand back and let the person have their own treatment process with the help of the team. Alcohol and drug addiction is a very treatable illness. If a person is motivated and keen to make the huge changes necessary to do that, it's more than possible to get well. And I've seen hundreds of people go through the treatment process and get well and have really fruitful lives that have meaning and value, and who have that deep sense of peace that was missing initially.
Hey, it's your girl Sansa Ray, and I wanted to make sure I made a video about this. I was at my man's house on my phone on Facebook, and I seen something that startled me. It was about a woman that was found stabbed to death, and it was after she had posted a Facebook warning on her Facebook about her children's father being released from jail. And it was kind of, it was a little disturbing. But what happened was I was going through my Facebook feeds and I seen someone post this. It says, it's a picture of this young lady, Michelle Rowling, I believe is her name, Michelle Rowling. This is Michelle Rowling, a beautiful black woman who was murdered by her abusive boyfriend, baby daddy. What saddens me is our brothers, including Tommy Sotomayor, feels glad that this beautiful black queen was murdered for loving and forgiving the wrong man. We as black people need to stop acting like domestic violence is not our problem. It needs to stop. Let me just say this. I've been in abusive relationships before. I think I spent most of my early 20s being in an abusive relationship, and I think it was just mainly because I myself had just been around a kind of dysfunctional situation as I grew up. So, the kind of men that I kind of chose to end up with were kind of abusive. And, I've been beat and slapped on and dragged across the concrete by my foot. And, just all kinds of negative stuff would happen to me. And there was one time a boyfriend of mine punched me in my mouth so bad that I had to talk through my teeth. Like I said, I was pulled across the concrete one time by a guy, and a piece of glass went into my back and carved an S. I mean, it's just, I've been in experiences with guys, and people ask me stuff like, well, how could you stay in a relationship like that with someone hitting on you? Or, how could you be with somebody who would do something like that to you? I think when you fall in love with somebody and you've been loving someone and they decide to hit you or do something like that, and they come back and they apologize, you want to have so much faith and hope in this person that they never do something like this again. And I've been in relationships where I fought and fought and fought and fought until I couldn't take it no more and had to end up leaving. Now, this is when I had tolerance for that shit, because now that I'm older, I don't have tolerance for the shit. I don't have tolerance to be fighting back and forth with some guy, and I don't think that is healthy for me to be in a relationship with somebody that will hurt me like that. I spent the last 4 years of my life being single, and before that I was in a relationship, and I really was looking forward to marrying this man, and he fucked it all up when he smashed my head into the driver's side window of my car. Relationship over, because during that time I had made up in my mind that I was never going to be hit on by another man again, and if I felt like that was going to happen, that relationship needed to be over. It's a conscious decision that you make. With this specific young lady, she was about 25. She had wrote something on her Facebook about her ex-boyfriend, Montrell Cooper, who actually is 25 as well, and he's been arrested for this crime, not knowing if he's actually done it or not. But his cellmates that were in jail with him, because he was just locked up for a year for assaulting her before. He just served a year in jail for stabbing her in the neck. And so his cellmates are saying that he was telling everybody how he was going to kill her anyway. So, and this isn't the first time he's assaulted her, if he did do this. This has been like maybe the third or fourth time, and he's been arrested for assaulting her before. Now, sometimes when you're in a relationship with someone, you want to help them be better. You want to, if they've been in an abusive relationship, or you knew how they grew up, or and you knew how hard their lives were when they were younger, and then they try to, be with you, you try to be a positive figure in their life. You want to make their life a little better. So this is probably why she was staying with him. Plus they had 2 kids together. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to justify her staying with somebody that tried to beat on her, but I mean, it's a couple of times that she could have testified against him and did not, and could have put herself in a position to where he could be away from her for good. But we be young and stupid, like male or female, 25 years old, come on, you barely know who you are. You got 2 kids already by the same guy at 25. Trust me, you're not thinking straight at 25. I'm 33, and I'm telling you, at 25, your mind is all over the place, no matter what's going on. So I don't think she made a good decision. That does not mean that she deserves to die. This brings me to talk about Tommy Sotomayor again. Like, I really am not feeling this guy. And it's just how bad he is on black women altogether. Like, why would he be happy that this guy decided to kill her? And when I'm talking to guys about this specific situation, the first thing they say is, well, what did she do to him to make him come after her like this? What possibly could she done? She had his kids. She was trying to work out the relationship with him. I don't see what the problem is. He wanted to be with her, so they was trying to work their relationship out. So if he did fucking stab her to death, he wanted the relationship. So I think trying to justify this man's actions, saying it was something that she did wrong, is really fucked up. Like, that's what I don't understand, the mentality of a black man. Like, I don't get it. Like, why was the first thing that you're thinking in your mind when we're talking about this young lady is, what did she do in order for him to keep beating on her? No, just because somebody does something wrong, that means you have to try to stab their ass every chance you get. Come on, that doesn't make any sense. So this goes back to, I don't understand why so many people support Tommy Sotomayor, because of the fact that he said something as ridiculous about Trayvon Martin as well. Like, Trayvon Martin deserved to die because he was quote unquote a thug. You know, everybody has gone through their stages of where they was doing a whole bunch of ridiculous shit, and Tommy is not exempt to that. So I just don't understand how he could keep making videos like this and people support that. And someone had the nerve, a black man had the nerve to tell me this thing that Tommy is doing while attacking all of these black women is his way of having tough love and trying to teach black women that they shouldn't be like this. I could understand if that was the man's point of making the videos that he does, or putting emphasis on shit like that, but the delivery that this nigga has, it's not pleasant. Like, if you are a respectable man and you want to teach black women to be a certain way or act a certain way, the way you doing it is not working. It's not making black women love you. I think the majority of Tommy's audience is black men. Black men, like a whole bunch of people who felt like they were underdogs, or who were beaten by people mentally, physically, verbally, or whatever. And a lot of intellectual people just can't stomach Tommy. And definitely after reading this status from this guy on Facebook, it just felt sad to me that Tommy could take death, somebody's death, and turn it into something so cruel and ugly. Like, this is the stuff that he does, and people continue to support him, and I don't understand that. Of course, men have been dogged out for years by black women. Black women have went into media and destroyed black men. Even white people are doing this in the movies that I'm seeing, and on reality TV, all I see is a whole bunch of sorry ass black men. But as a black man, I don't think Tommy is a good representative of someone who is showing a black man in a positive light. If you would like it to where black women would be more positive, or if black men want to be portrayed in a better light in media, I wouldn't suggest that you continue to allow Tommy to be somebody out there to do stuff like this. Like, he's wondering why he's being put up on all of these racist sites. Like, he isn't racist. Dude, you're racist. I mean, what the hell? You hate black women, and if you love black women, how you be trying to make it seem like you do, you would not say something like, this lady deserved to die. She deserved to be stabbed to death by her boyfriend, and you glad she did. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And I don't know, I just feel like, you know, that's my opinion on that. I feel like, you know, she made a couple of mistakes. We all make mistakes when we're younger. We all do stupid shit. When I heard she was 25, I was like, oh, no wonder she was still in that abusive situation, because I don't know no woman that would be in that situation older. I got 2 kids I got to think about. Why would I be doing something like that? Black men do just as much stupid shit as black women do. He needs to balance this shit out. He needs to talk about all of the dumb shit that black women do and all of the dumb shit that black men do, and equal it out. Don't just put one focus on the female gender, because I'm telling you, the African community as a whole is like fucked up on so many levels. And all you gotta do is turn to World Star Hip Hop to figure that shit out. Oh, it turned out they don't even have 2 kids together. They got a 5-year-old daughter. They don't have 2 kids together. I think she got 2 kids, but I think she got 1 kid by him. I read some statistics somewhere. Is according to the recent report by the Violence Policy Center in Washington, D.C., black women are about 3 times more likely to die at the hands of a current or ex-boyfriend than members of other races. In 2011, 492 black females were murdered by males at a rate of 2.61 per 1,000, compared to a rate of 0.99 per 1,000 for white females. where the relationship should be determined, 94% of black females killed by males knew their killers. Nearly 15 times as many black females were murdered by a male they knew that were killed by male strangers. Of the black victims who knew their offenders, 52% were wives, common law wives, ex-wives, or girlfriends of the offenders. 93% of the homicides were intraracial. I mean, she posted on her Facebook, so if anything happens to me tonight, just let my kids know I love them dearly and tell my mama I love her. And that was on November 25th. I mean, she died, when did she die? I think she died 5 days after, something like that. Nobody deserves to die, especially not in that way, even if you making a horrible decision. Like I say this all the time, black women, you damned if you do, you damned if you don't. If you stick by your man, they call you stupid. You know what I'm saying? If you don't stick by your man, you a bitch. You know what I'm saying? It's like either way. It's like you damned if you do, you damned if you don't. She was trying to stick by her man, trying to fix it, trying to hope he do better with his life. And I tell ladies all the time, man, you got to know what your limit is. Like, never let a man pound on you. It is never okay to let a man hit you, even scream on you in a specific kind of way. If my man even raised his voice at me in the wrong kind of way, our relationship is over. I don't play that kind of shit. Like, if you can't have any kind of self-control or anything like that, you don't deserve to be in a relationship with a woman. But if she would have left the nigga and not tried to help him out, y'all would have found something negative to say about her as well. So, you know, you guys really need to think about what you're doing, the decisions that you're making. Black men and black women, just think about what you're doing to the community, what you're doing to yourself. You are an example. You lead by example. So the decisions that you're making, the choices that you're making, what you're doing when you walk outside that door every day, what your kids see you doing, the relationship that you in, your relationship patterns, how you carry yourself, all that is extremely important, because there are people watching you who want to be like you. No matter what kind of person you are, you could be working as a cashier at the Kroger. It is somebody inside of there that is watching you, that want to be like you, that emulates what you're doing, whether it be just your hairstyle, the way you talk, the things you say, way you dress, all of that stuff. So just be careful. You know, you influence lives. We all influence each other in some kind of way. So just be careful.
Dr. Jack Kevorkian is a free man 8 years after he went to prison for helping a man with Lou Gehrig's disease commit suicide. He claims he's participated in at least 130 assisted suicides, but he says those days are over. Dr. Kevorkian is in Southfield, Michigan with his attorney, Mayor Morgan Roth, for his first live television interview. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I know, Dr. Kevorkian, you have been over recent days dealing with being out of prison and also with the onslaught of people asking you questions about whether you will help someone commit suicide again. How are you adjusting to all of this attention after having been in prison for 8 years?
It's not too difficult. It's at least in an atmosphere of freedom. So. And the questions usually aren't too difficult to answer.
Well, the question about whether you will help someone commit suicide again, you've answered no. But that has not changed, you say, your position on whether doctors actually do this. In fact, you say that doctors quietly do this on their own. What evidence do you have of that, sir?
Oh, there have been polls taken of doctors, and anonymous polls, and I think more than half say they've done it before, and some say 30% say they do it still.
And why do you think that this is okay? Why do you think this should be allowed?
Well, it's one of our natural rights that we're born with, the right to control the circumstances of one's own death. It can't be controlled by external forces and be a right. The only thing then is that law can block your use of it, but that doesn't mean that they destroy the right. The right is always there. You can't destroy it. You're born with it.
But in these cases of, you say, about 130 people you say you've helped die, how do you know that these people are exercising this so-called right, knowing full well what is ahead? In other words, don't you need to validate scientifically or with a psychiatrist's help whether these people are capable of making this choice before you actually get involved if this is in fact what you embrace, sir?
Of course, that goes without saying almost.
Did you do that then with all 130 of these cases, sir?
I think every doctor does that. Every doctor validates the person's request. Is it really a medical problem? That's why a person goes to a doctor, because who else is the expert? And if the doctor decides, yes, it's true, this person has a serious disease, yes, it's true, it looks like he's suffering, and yes, it's true that there seems to be nothing to help him, and the person has a natural right to request help by a competent professional in ending his life. And the competent professional has a natural right to accede to that request and help him. Both of those rights, that bilateral right is blocked by law. But that's all. That doesn't destroy the right.
Well, I guess the question I'm asking is about whether they're psychologically capable of making such a decision that they will not change their mind on later if they're in so much pain. Let me just go on and basically get your response to this. From the New York Times just has an editorial out that says, it calls you basically, it says you've emerged from prison as deluded and unrepentant as ever. That you're saying that what you did is right. I didn't care what they did or didn't do. What I'm going to do, I'm going to do it right. The irony, according to the New York Times, is that you did it wrong, and in performing assisted suicide so badly, you besmirched the movement you hope to energize. What is your reaction to that?
I think the irony of the New York Times is quite contrary to the irony of the polls. The most recent polls are 92% that are in favor of Jack Kevorkian. You can always get an editorial by somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about or disagrees or is an antagonist, but you don't take one person's opinion against 92% of the public.
Well, did you besmirch?
But in any event, another answer too is that in any case that there was any doubt regarding their mental capacity, Dr. Kevorkian had them referred to a psychiatrist and got a psychiatrist's report and an analysis of the person's problems.
Well, we certainly are not going to.
I never helped.
Go ahead, Jack.
I never helped a patient. I never help a patient without a report from the patient's doctor. They wouldn't communicate with me directly because they were afraid to. But I insisted that the patient get a copy of the report and send it to me before I even talk to them.
Well, certainly this will not be the last we've heard of this debate, Jack. I know you, Dr. Kevorkian, you are not expecting that it will be. And thank you to you and also Mayor Morgan Roth for joining us this morning.
You're welcome.
All right.
So pretty early on when I got to South Sudan, we had a really difficult case, and I think this was my hardest experience there. It was actually my first day, and the OB that I was taking over from was still there. And I was getting oriented or whatever, and she called me over to the OR and said, "I'm doing a vacuum. You should come and see how it goes." And I ended up participating because it was so difficult. And the situation was an 18-year-old girl who was having her first baby and had come in, excuse me, with a stillbirth after laboring for 4 days at home. And she was already septic, blood pressure was low, pulse was really high, and she was getting antibiotics and actually pressors in the OR. And they did a vacuum to get the baby out. And it was really tough, and I actually ended up scrubbing in with the other OB. And we really needed the force of two of us to get that baby out, but we didn't want to have to open her abdomen because that would just make her so much sicker. But we got it out. It actually went okay. And, you know, we examined her afterward and tried to see if anything was necrotic, but it looked okay. And then we sent her to the ward. In the beginning, she was doing okay. She was weak and, you know, infected, but talking, and her parents were there taking care of her. And then, but still very infected. And over the course of the next day, her blood pressure started dropping. And we knew this was probably from sepsis, and we made her antibiotics more aggressive. And briefly, the anesthesiologist thought it would be a good idea to put her on pressors because her blood pressure was so low. And we talked that over after a few hours, and the hospital supervisor really weighed in, I think very importantly here, and said, you know, we can't put everyone on pressors. We can't run an ICU. We don't have that capability. And if she isn't better, you know, isn't supporting her blood pressure after 24 hours, she really needs to do it on her own because we can't support this for long. And she was right. And so we stopped the pressors, and she just continued to be very infected. And over the next 2 days, she really decompensated. I don't think the pressors would have saved her. I think she was just too sick. But it was really, really hard to watch her die. She just became unconscious, and then I think we had to put an NG tube, and her parents just kind of stayed like literally sitting in her bed, and by the end her breathing was so labored and it was painful, like it looked very painful even though she was unconscious. And I wanted to do something to help her, and I could have here, I could have intubated her, I could have sedated her, but you can't do anything there, so you just have to watch her die. And her parents at the end were sitting on her bed, each one holding a hand and just watching her. And when I knew she was going to die, I told them that, and I said, it's really, really likely she's going to die. And we had a translator explain to her, to the parents, that, and they were accepting. They understood at that point, and they said, it's in God's hands. But to me, that was tough. An 18-year-old shouldn't be dying having a baby. So that was hard. And I think, you rethink what could I have done differently, and I don't know. I know that she would have lived if she'd given birth in New York. But I don't know that in that setting that we could have done anything differently. It's tough. I think maternal mortality really boils my blood, because it's entirely preventable, or almost entirely preventable. And that's a perfect example. She's a young, healthy woman, and if she'd come in after 1 day of labor instead of 4, she would be alive. I don't know that you ever make it go away. The hospital supervisor actually said something I think that's really true. She said, every doctor has their own personal graveyard in their mind, and it's true. Like, you hold them with you forever, and you think about them, and nobody else knows it's there, but you carry it.
The way he says that in verse 7 there, that in the ages to come he might show forth the riches of his grace in his kindness toward us. There's sort of an explanation to you that God, the riches of his grace, you want to see it, it's in his kindness toward us through Jesus Christ. In other words, the grace of God is connected with what God has done for you and will do for you through his Son. Romans chapter 3, verse number 24. This is my personal favorite verse to define grace. Romans 3:24, being justified freely by his grace. Now, by the way, that word freely is real important there. Romans 6:23, he says, the wage of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life. You know what a gift is? Romans 5, he talks about the free gift. When you get a gift, you know what you paid for it? Nothing. Somebody paid for it. Somebody bought it. They gave it to you without a charge, freely. That's why Ephesians is going to say, it's the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. You see, this is God's free gift to us, being justified freely, look at the rest of it, by his grace. Now, where does grace come from? Through the redemption that is in Christ Jesus. You've got to understand, folks, God's grace doesn't come to you through what you do, what someone does for you. Humanly speaking, it comes from one source. It comes from what God has done for you through the cross work, the redemption that is in Christ Jesus. Look over at Romans chapter 8, verse 32. Romans 8, verse 31 and 32. What shall we say to these things? If God be for us, who can be against us? Well, a lot of people can be against you. Go out on a street corner and talk to the world out there and tell them about what God says. You'll find a whole bunch of people will be against you. But the idea is, if God's for you, who can be successfully against you that's going to change what God thinks? Nobody. Why? He that spared not his own Son, but delivered him up for us all. If he did that, and he gave the best that he had, how shall he not with him also freely give us all things? If you have the Lord Jesus Christ, you have the best the Father has. You have the one in whom the Father finds all of his delight and all of his joy, the one whom he says has the preeminence, the first place in everything. And if he gave you him, what else would you lack? Nothing. How shall he not with him freely give you all things? Why? Because all things are in him. That's why that verse up there says you're complete in him. You're blessed with all spiritual blessings in heavenly places in Christ Jesus. You see, it's not something you work for. It's not something you strive for. It's not something you're on probation to see if you're going to get. It's something God gives you in His, by grace, by all that God can do for you through the finished work of His Son. That's where salvation is. Salvation is not in what we do. It's in what He has accomplished for us.
Are you fucking kidding me?
What?
That was so fucking stupid. Pure horseshit. The death of whore right here in front of us.
I'd jump. It scared me.
A fucking Facebook killer? You're kidding me, right?
I guess now it would be Twitter. That'd make more sense.
A bunch of articulate teens sit around and deconstruct horror movies until Ghostface kills them one by one. It's been done to death. The whole self-aware, postmodern meta shit. It's like a fork in 1996 already.
I like the stab movies. They're scarier. It's not aliens or zombies or little Asian ghost girls. There's something real about a guy with a knife who just snaps. It could really happen.
I can't do it. These sequels don't know when to stop. They keep recycling the same shit. Even in the opening scene, there's always some random girl who gets a call which undoubtedly ends up getting her killed. It's also predictable. There's no element of surprise. You can see everything coming.
Did that surprise you? Why? Because you talk too much. Now shut the fuck up and watch the movie.
Hi, my name's Rod Swift. I'm the Greens candidate for the seat of Gellibrand in the 2013 federal election, and I'd like to talk to you today about an issue that's close to my heart. My dad went through a 19-month battle with the debilitating illness motor neurone disease, a disease that traps a fully functioning mind in a body that just simply doesn't want to work. It's a harrowing disease, and my dad was a very strong supporter of voluntary euthanasia, and I am too. More than 3/4 of Australians also support having the right to end their life in a way that preserves their dignity when it comes time. And I think our politicians should be strongly revisiting this issue, and I certainly, if elected, would do so. That's why I'm proud to stand up for this particular issue, and that's why we're with you.
The first few days, it was touch and go. We didn't know whether Terry was going to live or not. From her collapse, she suffered a lack of oxygen to the brain and suffered profound brain injury. And she remained dependent on others for her care since that night. Initially, after Terry's collapse, we were all working together with Michael and our family, trying to do everything we could to help Terry to improve her condition.
She was in hospitals, and then she was in nursing homes, and then she went to California to put the implant in her, in her head, see if that would help. And when she came back here, she went into a rehab center down in Bradenton.
Doctors believed that she was a candidate for rehabilitation therapy, so we started aggressively doing that, providing her the therapy and rehabilitation the doctors recommended that she needed, and she was improving.
And that's when she was starting to talk down there, you know, stop, mommy, okay, you know, little things.
The first couple of years, after 1990, after her collapse, there are notes in her medical files where nurses were writing that Terry was starting to speak. She was forming words from her rehabilitation, and she was getting better. And we were very encouraged by that.
Meanwhile, Terry remained in nursing homes. Her early improvements did not continue. Her diagnosis, persistent vegetative state.
Terry Schiavo was not brain dead. She was not maintained or sustained at all by machines.
Terry was fed differently than you and I. She was fed through a tube, but she was fed at night. So during the day, she could be sitting up in a chair watching TV. And she wasn't on any type of other machines. Nothing else was hooked up. There were no IVs, there was no respirators. Terry was simply a disabled woman.
Paul McHugh, a professor at Johns Hopkins, speaks about this. He says, PVS, persistent vegetative state, is not death hidden by machinery. Okay? It is life lived under altered neurological or mental circumstances.
Terry normally was still. She did not make sound. She didn't really move around much. But when she sensed her mother's presence and her smell and her touch, Terry lit up like a Christmas tree every time and began vocalizing.
She would immediately recognize my mom's voice, and a smile would immediately come to her face.
It's Mommy! Hi, baby. How are you?
She said, Terry, what are you doing?
She laughed at my dad's jokes. She giggled when my dad would kiss her with his mustache. She would pull away, and because he would purposely do it, of course, scratch her face a little bit, and so she just had a huge connection with her family, as she always did.
She wasn't terminal. She was essentially physically healthy as you or I. I mean, all of her organs and her vital signs were very strong. She was a woman living with a disability, just like I believe there's 40 or more million people in our country today that are living with some type of disability.
Huh? Can you look this way?
You know, we were visiting Terry. My parents were doing everything they could to at least provide her the stimulation they could just as parents.
What's the matter? To show her the love and compassion that parents give a child.
Mama. Can you do mama?
The next step we took is we wrote Michael Schiavo a letter. And we asked him, please give Terry back to us. No strings attached. We just want our daughter. And of course that letter was ignored.
No,
Terry languished without therapy or rehabilitation for 5 more years, while the Schindlers continued to fight for guardianship. Then, things took a turn for the worse.
8 years after her collapse in 1998 was when Michael finally decided that instead of doing what he promised he was going to do to the jury and to my family, he now petitioned the court to remove her feeding tube, subtly saying that Terry would not want to live as a disabled adult.
The courts and the husband want to starve this disabled woman. She's not terminally ill, she's disabled. They want to starve her to death? Of course the family wanted to prevent this. Take Terry home, care for her. But there were opposing arguments.
The real question is not whether someone would want to care for them, but what the patient would have wanted. Michael, in the first few years of after Terry's cardiac arrest, believed the same as the parents. He misinterpreted the involuntary actions of Terry as consciousness, and he said, she's there, and I know she's there, and I know she understands me, and I know she can get better. And so that took a long time for him.
We still believed with love, care, taking her home, making her part of the family, maybe future advancements, that Terry could get better.
Terry, open your eyes.
They loved her the way she was, but they thought there could be gradual improvement over time. The husband had pretty much written her off. That's why he warehoused her, isolated her, cut off all the rehab and therapy. And so his argument was she would never get better.
No one in this world will tell me that she didn't know who I was. You could tell. I mean, I could stand at the door before I went in and just say, Terry, it's Mommy. And she would start laughing. She would turn her head to the door. And when I got in there, she would try so hard to talk to me, but we just couldn't understand her.
How are you?
How's your cold? Huh? How's your cold, sweetheart? Are you better? Are you better?
I know from the many hours I spent with Terry Schiavo, and I'm not a medical doctor, but I was not also interested in prosecuting a case where I didn't feel in my heart of hearts what we were advocating was 100% true. I know she was not in PBS. I know that she was at least minimally conscious and even beyond. I hope and pray anybody watching this never has a disability like she had. But here's a girl that's recognizing people, interacting, responding to her family, showing emotion. She's alive. Disabled, but alive.
She had very profound brain injuries. I mean, you would not expect her to respond like a normal person. That didn't mean she had to die.
In spite of arguments about the sanctity of every life, Pinellas County Judge George Greer ruled in 2000 that Terry's feeding tube should be removed, and it set off a chain of bitter court battles.
Go over here on this side now.
There was over 40 doctors that had either examined Terry or submitted affidavits that looked at this case and said that either Terry was not in this persistent vegetative state and or could have been helped with the technology that was available today. Many of the doctors that examined Terry felt as though it was remarkable that she was responsive and alive and was interacting as much as she was, given the fact that the last amount of therapy rehabilitation she had was, at that time, it was closing in on 10 years.
As the case grew in profile, some of the leading neurologists from around the country were willing to come in and testify. But there's one doctor that I think is probably the most unbiased in the mix. Weeks before Terry Schiavo's death, a doctor from the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida, on behalf of the state of Florida, went in to see Terry Schiavo. This is an independent neurologist, highly trained, And he came back with the overwhelming opinion that Terri Schiavo was alive, she was not in PVS, and that she should indeed be kept alive. The judge in this case did not want to hear.
In March of 2005, the Schindler family took Terri's fight to the United States Congress, asking them to direct the federal courts to hear their case. They wanted that original case reopened. They wanted to introduce new facts and have the existing facts be re-examined.
The Senate of the United States, by a procedure, unanimously supported Terri Schiavo's right to go into federal court and have her case re-reviewed. A privilege, by the way, that we give to convicted killers and to others convicted of horrible crimes, but because Terri was disabled and she wasn't a criminal, she didn't get this.
In Washington, Congress debates what has come to be known as Terri's Law. Meanwhile, the Schindlers' appeals run out, and Judge Greer's death order is enforced. For the first time in the United States of America, society has been given the ability to put to death a profoundly disabled person, even without that person's clear consent. Friend, that is frightening.
I was in Washington, D.C. I was sitting down ready to do an interview with CNN. And as I was waiting, I was watching the TV, and it said Judge Greer had just ordered Terri's feeding tube removed. And I remember I got up out of my chair and just left. I remember CNN was doing everything they could to try to get me to sit down and do an interview. And I was just like, not now.
Now keep in mind, Terri's feeding tube was removed twice before, and both times it was put back in. I truly never believed that Terri was going to die. Even the day the feeding tube was removed, I thought, okay, well now we just have to get it put back in.
Terri's Law is signed by the President of the United States at 1:11 a.m. on March 21st, 2005. Terri has been without food and water for 3 days.
And after the law was passed, I remember I was on the first plane back down to be with my family. I was encouraged. We were very happy because we thought that Terri's life was going to be spared once again.
The family's optimism is short-lived. A federal judge quickly ruled against the Schindlers. There would be no full rehearing of the facts. After over a decade of fighting this landmark case, Terri was out of options.
I kept thinking something was going to happen. They can't do this. And I guess that's when I decided, that I better, brace myself, because this looks like it's, no one's going to help her this time.
When I was in the room with Terri the last time her mother would see her alive, I was aghast at what I saw. Please understand, the media wasn't allowed in. I believe if television cameras were allowed in, Terri Schiavo would be alive today. The first thing that hit me was the noise. I thought a machine had broken, that air conditioning or something had mechanically broken, and then I realized that was Terri Schiavo's breathing. Mary Schindler was prohibited from wiping her daughter's brow or putting ice chips or a sponge on her daughter's tongue.
I was with Terri up until actually moments before her death. It was, the word barbaric comes into a horror movie, stuff that creates nightmares. I mean, Terri physically, her body was going through just horrific changes, and she was obviously in a lot of pain.
And again, it's another one of these big lies that is told about someone dying from dehydration and starvation. Michael Schiavo's attorney said it was a peaceful and painless way to die. He came out and did a press conference and said that he never saw Terri look so beautiful.
It was definitely not a peaceful way to die. They sell that bill of goods to people so they can continue to do it. But it was the most awful thing I've ever seen in my life.
Terri is now with God, and she's been released from all earthly burdens. After these recent years of neglect at the hands of those who were supposed to protect and care for her, she is finally at peace with God for eternity. For the volunteers that have helped our family, thank you for all that you've done for us. Thank you to the hundreds of doctors who volunteered to help Terry. Thank you to the lawyers who stood for Terry's life in the courtrooms of our nation. Thank you to all people of faith who demonstrated love for Terry and strength of conviction to defend the sacredness of all human life as a precious gift from God.
As a member of our family unable to speak for yourself, you spoke loudly. As a member of our family unable to stand under your own power, you stood with a grace and a dignity that made your family proud. Terry, we love you dearly, but we know that God loves you more than we do. We must accept your untimely death as God's will. Our prayer at this time is that our nation will remember the plight of persons with disabilities and commit within our hearts to defend their lives and their dignity for many generations to come.
By order of the government, a healthy young woman was denied food and water until she died. It's unthinkable.
There is an important group of people who are suffering at the end of life. Terminally ill. For them, there are no hidden cures, secret remedies, or magic wands. Even the best end-of-life care cannot relieve their suffering. They want the choice of an assisted death. That choice is denied. Helping another to die is illegal, carrying a prison sentence of up to 14 years, criminalizing loved ones who act out of compassion. This lack of choice and fear of what the next days or weeks might hold forces some to desperate measures, traveling abroad to die, taking their life at home, sometimes alone, asking loved ones for help illegally. For many, this situation is unbearable. It doesn't have to be this way. A new law would enable terminally ill, mentally competent adults to have the choice of an assisted death. A new law with strict upfront safeguards to make sure they're clear about what they want, their decision is free and informed, they have explored all other options. Only then would a doctor prescribe life-ending medication as a last resort. Only they would choose when and if to take it. Research in American states where assisted dying is legal shows many who ask for the life-ending medication never take it. Simply having the option brings peace of mind. It helps ease the suffering of those who are dying. A better, safer law is not achievable without your help. You can help us to end unnecessary suffering at the end of life. Respect choice. Campaign for dignity in dying.